Welcome back to BWO Daily, your source for news in sports entertainment and the world of professional wrestling from your boys at Busted Wide Open. My name is Nick Howell.
And I am Sir Ian Dangerous. And today, unfortunately, we have to do a little piece on the passing of one James Sugar Bear Harris, probably better known to all of you guys as Kamala, the Ugandan giant. He passed away on August 9th at the age of 70 from looks like some sort of like a coronary heart problems, and it may have been COVID related. He did test positive for COVID there at the end. He, as I mentioned, his nickname was Sugar Bear, and he started as Sugar Bear Harris back in 1978. And it wasn't until England in about 82 he started working with Jerry Lawler. He came up behind Jerry Lawler at a event in Memphis and said, "I want to work for you." And Jerry said, "Okay, let me come up with a gimmick that we can use for you." And Jerry Lawler actually at the time was working with Jerry Jarrett, and in Jerry Jarrett's office they had it was like a big hunter kind of guy, and he had one of those big the big masks, the big African tribal masks, and a spear in his office. And Jerry Lawler started putting everything together, and he had seen a Frank Frazetta drawing, a painting, where some natives had a young woman captive, and he took that as inspiration for the face paint that he would ultimately paint on James Harris to create the Kamala character. He also openly admitted that, for those of you not aware of history, Idi Amin at the time was the president, the dictator of Uganda, and he was actually noted for admitting to being a cannibal before he became the leader of Uganda. So at the time, it was a very topical character. So they wanted to have something like that be put in people's minds, audiences' minds at the time. So they put it all together. Jerry put it all together and made Kamala the Ugandan giant, who would then come in and feud with Jerry Lawler and be someone who could come in, take his title, beat him down, and then Jerry would have to fight to get back his title from Kamala. So that was actually where the whole thing came from.
Never knew all that.
Yeah, the discussions about the level of racism involved in his creation is for another time. We're just here to discuss the man and his legacy, because he did do a lot of work. He worked for WWE as well. He ended up in WWE in '84, did some feuding with Andre the Giant because he was a big dude. Actually, one of the other guys who actually was known for picking up and body slamming Andre the Giant. There's a pretty famous shot of him scoop slamming Andre as well. The WWE downplays it because only Hulk Hogan did that. Don't forget. By the way, happy birthday, Hulk. And he also feuded with Hulk Hogan in '86 and '87. He was feuding with Hulk Hogan for the title. You may remember at one point he was in the Dungeon of Doom.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, right. And then also he went back to Memphis for a little bit. Anytime he wasn't there, worked a lot with Jerry down there. But came back to have a match, a feud with Undertaker in '92. He was managed by Kim Chi over these years. Harvey Whippleman ended up with Reverend Slick. So after that, ended up in WCW, did some more work in Memphis, came back in the mid-2000s for WWE. You might have remembered him coming back and kind of putting over Umaga around that time, who was in some ways kind of like a modern Kamala at the time when you think about it. Unfortunately, if we're going to talk about him in WWE, he was also pretty outspoken about how terribly they paid him. He said that he often had to sleep in his car on the road because it was him and his managers, and they would all split a room, but to save money, he would sleep in his car just to not have to spend that money. He actually called his pay in WWE disgusting, but he said Vince was always nice to him. An idea of what he was paid was in his feud in '92, the SummerSlam match. Undertaker was paid $500,000. Kamala was paid $10,000. To give you an idea of the pay disparity for Kamala at the time. Now, Nick, Undertaker's Undertaker, but that's a hell of a disparity.
Yeah, it's still a SummerSlam match with Undertaker.
Yeah.
So okay.
That did not seem equitable.
No.
He also said that he was often kicked out of WWE dressing rooms by agents who wanted to use those dressing rooms for bigger stars. So he and his managers ended up making like a tent out of curtains and tarps, often outside the building, where he could change and put on his makeup and everything in some peace and not have to be around everything else that was going on. That being said, WWE did release a statement on his passing. They said that they are saddened to learn that James Harris has passed away at the age of 70. Under the frightening face paint of Kamala, the 6'7", 380-pound Harris battled the greatest superstars in sports entertainment history, including Hulk Hogan, The Undertaker, and Andre the Giant. I just said all that. He terrorized opponents and thrilled audiences in Mid-South World-Class Championship Wrestling, WCW, and WWE until 2006. WWE extends its condolences to Harris's family, friends, and fans. He did have a really hard time at the end there, Nick. I don't know if you remember us talking about him very early on this show.
Yeah.
We mentioned that he'd had his other leg amputated.
Yeah, I do.
Because in 2011, due to complications with diabetes and high blood pressure, he had his left leg removed at the knee. And in 2017, same happened to his right leg, so he was in a wheelchair for the last 3 years and making ends meet by using his disability check and then also selling handmade wooden chairs up into the end. So he was diagnosed with COVID on August 5th. His wife thinks he may have contracted it while he was getting dialysis, but they're not sure about how he got it. But it was a cardiac arrest that took him on August 9th. Whether or not it was COVID-related has not been released yet. That being said, and this is going to go out to everyone who's watching this show, his wife did send up a GoFundMe account to try to pay for his funeral expenses and her living expenses. It's currently only at $1,700 of its $10,000 goal. So if you're out there watching this, out there in wrestling land, go to GoFundMe, search for Kamala's funeral expenses, and you'll see that pop up on GoFundMe. Throw a little dosh his way. Do a little something that WWE still hasn't really done to this day, and help a brother out. So once again, condolences to his family. And I know there's a lot of people out there with some fond memories of Kamala, because in real life, the guy James was supposedly an absolutely amazing, wonderful human being, and I'd never heard anybody say a sideways word about him.
It also says a lot about character and work ethic, that you're willing to just deal with a circumstance and go outside and set up some tents with some tarps.
Yeah,
you can really tell how much he loved the business and what he was willing to go through, and it was just, okay, I'll handle it. I'll come up with a solution. Instead of sitting around and complaining about things, he found a solution. And just things like that really resonate with me and hit home. Just going outside and, okay, what have we got? Let's build something. Here we go.
Yeah.
I think that really speaks to the kind of man, the kind of person that James was. So rest in peace, James. You've had a hard go at it the last few years.
Rough at the end.
Yeah, I definitely remember some of your feuds from the 80s for sure.
Oh, man, yeah. And it's also telling how many people spoke out about what a great guy he was. Yeah. Even Hulk Hogan, in his own way, put him over at the end, where he said, I would go to everybody and tell him, ask him if it was okay if the leg drop was the finish, which the office was mandating that the leg drop be the finish. It wasn't my fault. But every time I'd go to James and he would say, yeah, man, let's go out and make that money. Come on, I don't mind. Do it. Let's do it. Never had a problem with it. So Hogan throwing some love his way as well at the end. So again, rest in peace, Kamala. And we've lost a good one. So in other news today, Shaky Blackheart, we were reporting this as of August 11th, Tuesday. Shaky Blackheart reported that last night in the middle of the night, her car was stolen outside of her apartment building in Florida, in Orlando. It is a 2015 white Honda Civic, license plate LYT P77, and it was last seen driving down Chickasaw at 5 a.m. So
I don't know what any of that means, but okay.
Well, if you're in Orlando, you might. Yeah. If you're in the area and you have any idea where her car went, it'd be great for you to just get her back her ring gear, which was inside the car. All of her equipment and her gear bag with her gear, her boots, her entrance jacket, and her helmet were all in the trunk. If you're wondering why she's wrestling in street clothes this week, as she said on Twitter, and she doesn't have her helmet, then that's why. She also said on Twitter that she's mostly sad about her helmet because her first day of training 7 years ago, she saw that helmet hung up on the wall next to the ring, and she looked at it every day she went to training, and finally when it was time for her to start having matches, she asked her trainers if she could have it, and she's been using it ever since. So she said, rest in peace, helmet. But hopefully, she also said if it shows up on eBay or anything, anybody let her know. If there's any way she can track that, the car she can replace, the ring gear can be remade, that helmet, one of a kind, It means a lot to her. So let's track down Shotzi's helmet, people.
Go get them,
Let's get
phenomenal ones.
Come on.
Yep.
Let's get Shotzi's helmet back. So I feel bad about that. But, Nick, we missed some birthdays over this weekend.
Yeah.
Got to talk about those. We had on the Saturday the 8th, Sable turned 53 years old. Shayna Baszler turned 40 and still kicking ass on Raw. Zach Gibson, Liverpool's number 1, 30 years old. Shoes up.
Shoes up.
Sunday the 9th, Alexa Bliss turned 29 years young. And Monday, yesterday the 10th, Fred Ottman, a.k.a. Tugboat, a.k.a. Typhoon, a.k.a. the Shockmaster. He I don't have his age, but he turned a number. Savio Vega turned 56, and Wade Barrett had some good news. He turned 40 years old. So happy birthday to everybody. And Nick, that is the news.
Well, thank you, Sir Ian Dangerous. Happy birthday to all of those folks. Rest in peace, Kamala and Shotzi. I hope you get your helmet back. We are definitely going to assemble the phenomenal ones. Here's your call to action, phenomenal ones. Find Shotzi's helmet. I know we've got some fans and listeners down in Florida, so keep a keen eye out for that white Honda Civic for sure. Also, make sure you slam that red subscribe button and subscribe to the channel here and set your notifications to all so you get notified anytime we put up a new episode of BWO Daily. Also, come over and follow us on Twitch at twitch.tv/bustedwideopen. We will be going live there from now on instead of here on YouTube. So you don't want to miss the live shows, head over to Twitch. And tonight at 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 Pacific, we will be going live breaking down everything that happened last night on Monday Night Raw. You can find links to all of this, our Discord community, make sure you get in there, and all of our social medias. All of that's down in the description below. But my name is Nick Howell. You can find me on Twitter at DataCenterDude.
And finding it ironic that I botched the age for the Shockmaster, I am Sir Ian Dangerous. You can find me on Twitter at Sir Ian Dangerous.
And we will see you guys next time.